against, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Board members, make sure your mics are on so we can hear you loud and clear. Roll call tonight. All the board members are present. And before you use the agenda, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda? If not, so moved that the agenda stands. Tonight we're having a public hearing tonight for our 2018 and 19 budget. We went over most of it last month, so we are going to have the public hearing now. So we are going to open the public hearing at 7:02, and we'll have a roll call vote.
Converse?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
DeLuca?
Yes.
Laughlin?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker?
Yes. Okay, there are some copies back there if anybody needs. You know, it's online. So now is the time. If anyone has any questions about the budget, you're more than welcome to ask questions, and we'll try to answer them the best as we can. And board members too, if there's some information that doesn't look right, or okay. Board members, any questions on the budget? Okay.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes, sir.
Just real quick, because I didn't double check the proposed budget from last month, but with the Hamlet project that we adopted last month,
Right.
Is that included in the expenditures for next year? Or do we need to incorporate that?
No, we have not incorporated that into the budget as of yet. We have not put that into the budget as of yet. Gary and I have thought through about it. We were just going to push that off for another couple of months to add that to it.
As a budget amendment during the course of the fiscal year.
Right. To see how everything comes together, as far as you got to work with Detroit Edison. We actually met with them yesterday, and but anyway, that's the process. And the engineers and stuff that are working on it. Okay. Anything else? Okay. If not, then the public hearing closes at 7:04. You need a roll call vote.
All right, we have Converse?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
DeLuca?
Yes.
McLaughlin?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Whitaker?
Yes.
Wensley, yes.
Okay. Okay, we're down to public comment. That's funny.
When you design your new project for the hamlet, what are you going to do about the poles that, if you change the poles around, what are you going to do about the poles for the Flag Day banners? Are they going to take those out and the Flag Day people are just going to be saying, too bad? Or are you going to
Yeah,
leave it?
that pole will stay there. That pole is staying there. Not, we're going to have someone hold it up now. Oh, yeah, so.
Yeah, they made their final plans and what they're gonna do yet, or is it still?
Yeah, there's been drawings to it. It was actually in the board packet last month. Kind of just a rough draft.
Are you gonna let the people of the Hamlet have their say,
Sure.
or are you just gonna do it?
No. We're gonna let people have their say. and we welcome it. So we got TJ is working on the Pride Pam Merlot, so make sure if you have any suggestions or anything, you're more than welcome to have your input. Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, we'll move on down. I do have one comment. I want to thank my daughter-in-law, Jen Whitaker in the back, is my youngest child, Travis's wife, and she's made the refreshments all possible tonight, so make sure you thank her. She's a great addition to the family. We sure appreciate her. She's a great gal. Okay, and okay, so down to the consent agenda, Mr. Windsor.
All right, I move that Salem Township approve the following consent agenda items. We have the minutes of the last month's February 13th regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. We have the general fund checks 27,328 through 27,395, and that totals $117,249.38. We had payroll of $54,444.54. Paycor of $216.64. Out of the sewer fund, checks 2030 through 2033, total amount of $16,335.31. Escrow fund disbursements of $11,184, checks 1746 through 1748. We also have invoices for the month of March. The general fund of $63,781.09. Out of the sewer fund, $9,267.28. And a small amount of invoices out of the escrow of $2,151.50. So the details are in your consent agenda. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any other questions on the consent agenda? Okay, no questions. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, now we're down to our annual Corn Fest from Salem Bible Church, which happens every year. And Mr. Wenzel.
I move that Salem Township approve the request of the Salem Bible Church to close McFadden Street on Saturday, August the 18th, 2018, for the annual Salem Community Corn Fest between the hours of 9 a.m. through 7 p.m. per Resolution 2018-03-13-1.
I'll second that.
Questions on that, board? Something that everybody seems to enjoy. Is that on Sunday or Saturday?
Last year was Sunday, this year it's Saturday.
It's back to Saturday. Yeah. All right, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. Okay, next submitted to you is the Planning Commission annual report that's been submitted. I know Pam and TJ, I don't know, TJ, if you have any comments on it?
A lot of what we did this year, I mean, there were things that came up, like the Salem Springs and doing some zoning ordinance issues, but we did a lot of work on the master plan, which is required every 5 years, and we've actually been working on it for a couple of years now. But since we got a new planner, we've ended up going through everything again so that Paul could look at it, and he made a lot of good changes. He made it less wordy, and we're just about ready with it now.
So they'll probably finalize it this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hopefully in the next couple months.
Okay. All right. So that's been submitted. Moving on down to the salaries. I move that Salem Township approve the annual salaries for the 2018-19 fiscal year, effective April 1st 2018 at the following rates for the elected officials. This is administrative office, supervisor, clerk, and the treasurer at $35,100, which still stays the same for 5 years. And the trustees are at $6,150 a year. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Winsley seconds. Any questions on this? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No raise. All right. Moving on down to the next item is motion to approve the 2018-19 non-elected officials' pay rates. I move that Salem Township approve the annual pay rates for 2018-19 effective April 1st, 2018 at the following rates for non-elected officials. Deputy clerk is at $21 an hour. Deputy treasurer, is $21 an hour. Deputy clerk is $20.65 an hour. Building department administrator is $17.50 an hour. Administrative assistant is at $15.81. Fire chief is at $26,000 a year. And the personnel in the fire department is to pay according to their contract. And the annual, when is the contract up? Is it another year and a half or so?
At least two.
Right.
Right.
Well, it was a 3-year contract. Wasn't it?
Yeah, so we just
All right.
signed it about a year.
All right. All right, and do I have a second on this?
Second.
All right, TJ? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. All right, so you remember, I'm sure most of the public remembers, instead of having a pension fund here at the township for non-elected officials, we kind of dissolved that and we just more or less have a bonus. It's really not a cost of living, it's a bonus. So we put in $10,000 budgeted for that, and we give the bonuses if they are employed on March 31st as an employee of the township. So the cost of living the bonus to each person, which would be 4 people that are eligible for it at the township, at $2,500 each as a bonus to the employees to do it. They have to pay taxes on it, but they can put in their retirements or whatever. But that's how we handle the retirement fund now. So, do we have a second on this?
I'll second that.
Okay, any other questions on it? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Motion's passed. Okay, down to Mr. Converse.
Okay, Mr. Supervisor, I move the Salem Township approve the following appointments to the Salem Township Land Preservation and Conservation Board for a 3-year term beginning January 1st, 2018 and ending on 12/31/2020. That would be Steve Schaefer, Dan Vergere.
Okay, before we second it, I did not have the conversation with you today. So there's been a change in that, so I apologize. So, Mr. Dan Vergere has decided to not renew this year because he's mad, he's disgusted. No, he's not. Anyway, he received my letter, and actually I thought I was the maker of that, so anyway, but it doesn't matter. But in his replacement, Bruce Reeves, who is on the Planning Commission, he is I believe his title is the advisory member, is that right?
Yes.
Sue, on the Land Preservation Board meeting.
Yes.
Now, so I had the conversation with Bruce today, and he would be delighted to be a part of that board, and so now he will be a voting member. So I appreciate his willingness to do that.
Well, then,
Dan is planning on, I think he told me he'd like to take his wife to Hawaii, Italy. That's what he told me today on the phone. I mean, he wants to start traveling and he doesn't have a lot of time. But I really appreciate, Dan, your serving, and he's has a lot of, he takes notes, he does a lot of detailed stuff, which is really appreciated. And he's always been very supportive of all the activities here at the township. So,
well, after that, then I amend my motion to read Steve Schaefer and Bruce Reed.
right. All right, we have a second on that? Support. All right, Mr. Trent, support. Any other questions? Steve Schaefer's a great guy too. I don't know if most of you know him. He's lives off of Brookville and just he watches the park constantly. It's a great guy to have on that board. Okay, so all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's passed. All right, we're moving right on down to budget amendments. Mr. Lindsay.
All right, we've got a long, this is budget amendments for this current year, which ends in a few weeks, but we want to straighten up our budget before the end of the year. So let me just get these on tape so we hear all these. I won't read all the numbers, I'll just read the names of the chart of accounts, the line items. So the equipment maintenance, this is in the elections department. The equipment maintenance and contracts, the budget was 500, we're going to revise it down to 200. Election coordinator, we had a budget of 0, but we need to revise that to $100. And the election workers pay, the budget was $1,500, we're going to raise it to $1,700. So those three balance out at 0, which is what we wanted to do. Township Hall, utilities were, the budget is $36,000, we're going to lower that to $35,000. Salaries for temporary workers, the budget was $1,000, we need to raise it to $2,000, so that also zeroes out. Land preservation, the due diligence, the budget was $25,000, we're going to lower that to $22,000. And the administrative assistant number 2, the budget was $25,055, we're going to raise that to $28,055. So that's a $3,000 both ways, which is 0. Now in the community development department, we have equipment and software. Budget is $1,200, we're going to lower it to $200. Education and training, budget of $1,000, lower it to $500. Optical scanning was $500, we're going to lower that to $200. The salary building coordinator, $35,700, we're going to raise that budget to $37,200. The payroll tax was $2,700, we're going to raise it to $3,000. The building inspector's pay, budget of $60,000, lower that to $55,000. And the consultant fees for the zoning board was $10,000, and we're going to lower that to we're going to raise that to $15,000. So all those numbers, if you add them all up, they'll be zeroed out. So now we go to the engineering services department. We have the Salem sewer study. The budget was $15,000. We're going to lower that budget to 0. And basically move that to the engineering services. The budget was $10,000. We're going to raise that to $25,000. In the fire department, we have training wages at $50,000. Currently, we're going to lower that to $40,000. Equipment maintenance and contracts was $14,000. We're going to lower that to $9,000. Professional services was $12,000. We're going to lower that to $7,000. And we move all that into station work hours, which is at 20,000, we're gonna raise it all the way up to 40,000. So that zeroes that one out. And lastly, the highways and streets. We have road maintenance for a budget of 870,000. We didn't spend that, so we're lowering that down to 470,000, which is, we're gonna move that all into contingencies and raise that whole budget up to 572,265. So that's a lot of little things, but it just will make our budget look good for the auditors at the end. So do we have a second on all those?
I'll second.
Thanks, John.
So, again, you know, I'm not a budget guy, so, so the contingency fund is more or less of monies that, if you need the money, it's there. So it's over almost 572,000.
Correct. So,
And are we over $10 million in reserves?
Yes, we are. We're pretty close to 10 too.
so once the auditors come in June and they look it over and they tweak what they have to, I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of that contingency will be able to be moved into the investment account, the reserves that you're talking about, so that's a good thing.
What I have been doing is I've been keeping those in Michigan class account, which is an interest-bearing portion. It gets equal to, or if not better than, a lot of the bond interest that I can get. And that's available on, I can push and pull the money anytime I need it. And so that's where it's been sitting. And that fund is now up over $1 million, so we're planning on keeping it there because we know that we're gonna have some major expenses coming up in the next couple of years with the roads and the streetscape and other things where we may need it. It's there and available.
And that's kind of going back to what David was saying about the Hamlet. We'll be using that money, but it'll just fall into another budget year is what we'll do that.
Okay.
Oh, so we got a second, yes.
You got a second?
Yep.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Question? Sorry. Go ahead.
I just wanted to see if you could refresh my memory. Under the zoning board of appeals, the consultant fees, what project or which consultants were involved in our ZBA issues? Was that our planner or was that?
Was the
legal
planner
fee?
and Mr. Plato?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion All right, now we're down to the Salem Township Budget, General Appropriation Act. Mr. Wednesday.
All right. I get most of my reading in today.
You get it here.
Yeah. So this is, we had our public hearing, and now this is basically the motion to approve that budget, and this budget will be next year's 2018-19 budget. It's called the General Appropriations Act for 2018-19. Just so you know, the Township Supervisor is the Chief Administrative Officer, and the Township Clerk is the Fiscal Officer, and this notice was put in the South Lyon Herald in March, and the revenues, the estimated Township General Fund revenues for this next year is $2,830,782. And here are the estimated expenditures based on our budget. We have a Township Board Department, $34,582. The Supervisors Department of $69,336. Independent Auditing, which is our financial auditors, $12,155. We have the Assessing Department, of $69,050. We have legal services at budgeted for $100,000. Township clerk's budget, $75,057. Board of Review Department, $4,142. The Treasurer's Department, $83,447. The Elections Department, $22,700. The Township Hall and Offices, $153 and $300. The Land Preservation Board is again at $25,000. Community Development, $166 and $514. The Planning Commission, $54,265. Engineering Services, $50,000. We have other consultants, which is generally, I think, our computer, our tower, $17,000. Zoning Board of Appeals, $3,802. Fire Department, same as last year, $503,200. Police Department, $350,000. Highways and Streets, $548,000. We have a Michigan SAW grant, which is $30,000. Fringe Benefits and Insurance, which basically is workers' comp and insurance, $97,322. We have other functions is $176,908. And capital improvements of $185,000 and $185,000. And that is the last of it. So after looking at it, if someone would like to second that.
Or Trent supports. Any questions on this? You want to do a roll call? Yes. We'll do a roll call vote on this.
Okay. Okay, so we'll start the roll call with Converse,
Yes.
Daniel,
Yes.
DeLuca,
Yes.
McLaughlin,
Yes.
Trent,
Yes.
Wensley, yes, and Whitaker.
Yes. Okay, moving on down to reports, been submitted. Expenditure revenue report. And now we're down to the fire department. Chief Rockwell.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So we had 44 calls from the month of February. We were fairly busy. The majority of the calls were because of our weather. We've had a number of car accidents, freeze. If you think back with the heavy snows that we've had, I don't know if winter's ever going to leave. Look out the window. So the majority of our calls have been related to the vehicles. I want to call your attention, if you haven't read the last newsletter that came out, we did a summary of all the calls of 2017. 60% of the calls were somewhat medical related, medical or a vehicle accident with them. So 60% of that was our responses. Other than that, we're up on call volume. Hopefully it's been slowing down a little bit in March.
No more storms.
At least not here, East Coast is getting covered.
Right. All right, Chief.
I did have
Yeah.
one quick comment. Just to let everyone know, I went to the insurance company that insures our township, which is called the MMRMA, the Michigan Regional Management Association. I went to a conference last week, and they had, they're going to do some more training with fire department and police department, and I wanted to just let everyone know that there's going to be, with all of the problems with active shooters in schools, which is ultimately gets back to liability in certain areas. they're going to be having training with fire department. It's called tactical active shooter training for fire department, for the fire service people. And they're going to have training around the state. It would be a really, probably a wise thing for us to take part in.
So we've already done that. We've already partnered with the sheriff's office, the MSP, and we have actually a Mavis box alarm tactical response team. We have gear and we have bulletproof vests, if you will, already on hand, and we're working with South Lyon School, for obviously the Salem school here.
Right.
So we've already walked through the schools and already had an exercise with an active shooter with their last break, which I think was the winter break.
Oh, that's great.
So we're continuing to practice with the police departments, and but we always welcome the opportunity to garner more. And it's actually a county-wide response. So whatever departments nearby, we're gonna respond as multiple departments with police lead, of course.
That's great. Yeah, they showed a video of them training, and it was very intense. I mean, they had halls filled with smoke. They had the sound of gunfire going off. They had people all over with, injured, and then they had the fire guys in and around taking care of people with all the sounds going off, and it was quite intense. So they said the stress of making sure that the fire guys and ladies train through those kinds of circumstances and those kinds of situations is so important. So I'm glad that you guys have already been doing that. So.
And then also on that note, I met with South Lyon Schools yesterday, and they put some officers, some of the county sheriffs. I mean, we have a lot of kids that are in Salem that are going to the high schools and everything, and the junior high schools, which a lot of this stuff takes place, to where they are wanting to put active officers inside the schools. And so they're present now, but they're going to have issues with fundings and everything else. So they'll probably be coming back to us, something that we need to think about. We're real, you think of our little school over here too, is because of not always having police presence here. It's just an issue now. They're talking to our sheriff this week also. They were pretty impressed on their drills that they've had. But there is a lot of training that they're willing to do if the South Lyon Schools will let them do it.
Right. So
there's,
I can't
there's
talk
a
a lot
problem.
about this in a public forum,
No,
but
there's a lot that they
right.
will do if
Yep.
they're willing to.
And they, like I said, they gave us the school to practice in,
Yeah.
and we want to continue doing that. One of the challenges we have is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but we're right in the crossroads of many communities. So if something like that happens, you're going to get every police officer that's within 20 miles coming in here as quick as they can. So you could expect Canton, you would expect Northville, you would expect Novi, you would expect departments that typically wouldn't come into Washtenaw County would just come in and flood this area. And I honestly, if we had an incident, whether it be a church or a school, you're really going to have two incidents, because what parent is not going to be a panicked parent with a child at school? So you not only have to control the scene, but you've got an influx of parents coming in that would also have to be controlled as best as you can, because obviously.
But it's really the time factor.
It is.
To me, it's as they say.
They said these
everybody's
incidents
watching.
are over in 5 minutes, and the reason the fire department's going in with the police is that the studies have shown that the patients are not addressed quickly enough and they're bleeding out before they're treated. Because police want to go in there and preserve the crime scene. They want to make sure that there's no second or third or fourth or whatever booby traps are in there. We're getting trained so that we can go in there with their protection and treat the patients while they're continuing on with, well, look how big the school is and how many nooks and crannies they'd have to check. So they want us to go in there and treat the patients and try to get them stabilized and to the hospital and increase the survivability of any patients. God forbid we ever find ourselves in that circumstance.
Well, it's good they're talking about it. We're all
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
it.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
We want to make sure and do something, not just wait. Okay. Thanks, Chief. Okay, any other board discussion or general updates? I don't have a lot. You have something?
Yes, earlier today at Northville High School, there was a public hearing for the Arbor Hills Flare project for their permit to install. And that started at 5:30 and was going till 7 when they were going to open up the official public comment. So I was able to stay for an hour. Representatives from the landfill were there as well to help answer any questions that people might have that might be directed to them. They indicated that they would be more than happy to come to a future meeting. They're anticipating that the DEQ will consider their permit after this public hearing is completed tonight and have some formal direction within a month if everything goes well. So they would be more than happy to come here next month and give us an update on what transpired tonight, the status of their completion project that they've been working on over the last few months. So I just wanted to convey that to the school.
Okay, thanks.
Should anticipate their update to us in the near future.
Any other comments? I know as far as the grant money, I mean, this is the 10 million. We are waiting. I know is the account thing straightened out yet, or no? Okay. So anyway, but the engineers have started. Just again, there's nothing being done until the financing is all provided for this. But the engineering work is being done on the sewer and water, and which is a 6 to 8 month project, they're saying. And, okay, all right.
First thing that was heavy on my mind is that with this basically 5 million, or 10 million, but 5 million increment, is that we need to make sure that this is entirely not in any way, shape, or form to be commingled with anything that's within the township or funds or anything like that. So what I have done is I've set up a special account with Chase as our banking account. Will be an account that goes specifically for that. We are able to earn interest on the money. And if you take the interest rate right now is about 1.65%, you take that times the $5 million, we could be making about like $7,000 a month in interest, as long as we got the money in there, and that's ours to keep. But on the same token, I had to set up a Michigan class account where we'll be putting that money in. It will be put into a separate account, and it will only be tied directly to the account in Chase, so money can be transferred back and forth very easily between the class account and the Chase account, and we'll have to write checks out of the Chase account. I've got all the information, I put it all in, and I thought, well, here we go, and I put it into the state, and they came back, well, you gotta be part of this Sigma VSS money distribution from the state. And for the last 2 days, I've been trying to fill out that form. I've been tearing my hair out. But I think we're just about there. We had some roadblocks we had to get through. And I still need some questions back from the state on it, but we're just about there. But once we get those accounts set up, then we have to put in a form that Scare's already signed, and it's ready to go to Lansing, and then the funds will then be distributed within 30 days. So it's not guaranteed as soon as it gets in there, we get it out. So it can take up to 30 days to get it, but once we get that out, then we have to start spending that money within 120 days. And Stantec is already starting the engineering, and they were kind of waiting to see when we were going to have the money. So to start, but it's all coming together, and the work is progressing. We will have to put out reports every 3 months, as the state requires, reports from which Stantec will be doing, until we get into the construction phase, and then they probably will be helping me. But there's going to be a lot of reporting that has to be done in accompanying with this. And once that $5 million is gone, then we can put in paperwork and we get the next $5 million to continue on with the process. But in the meantime, Gary has covered this numerous times, and I just will say it in my own words that we will be waiting on Showstack or that development corporation down there, whoever's going to be doing it, because they got to put up with the rest of the money. They got to have the money in hand before we start progressing with actual construction. Because in no way, shape, or form that we're going to start putting any of the township money out there to cover any of those expenditures. So it's all coming together. It's a little bit scary for a while, and it still is, but it happens.
Okay, thanks, Dale. Also, Showstack also had notified that they were going to create a website for nothing that's done by us. They're doing it on their own. It's going to be, I think they're launching it this week, they said. It's called SalemTownshipTogether.com. So just, you know, so once we get it, we'll either put it on site somewhere or people can look at it, what it is. I'm not sure. That's what I heard. I think it's SalemTownshipTogether.com. And this is just talking about the USD, so it'll be interesting.
We don't put a webcam over there on the floor.
Yeah, right. Yeah, what's going on? I mean, there's been a lot of misinformation, and that's, I think, you know, the township attorney, myself, there's just been a lot of misinformation, and people believe it, and it's like it's not the facts, and it's like you need to get the facts out there and say this is what it is. And I think the township board has to are upfront and honest about it, and just say this is what the township has created over years, and here's what's moving forward. And you know, there's just some of the stuff you heard, some of the stuff you read in the papers, in the Plymouth, how they're talking about the utility. This stuff's not true. It's just not. And so people are concerned. So I think if it's informational stuff that's truth and facts, you know, we certainly can share our comments, whatever, if there's something wrong in there. But it could be good. I'm just telling you what I heard. So, and I think that's going to be launched sometime this week. So they said they would notify me. So we will let you know. Okay. Anything else? Updates? I can't think of anything. This is a short meeting. So, so we're down to public comment. Yeah.
Salem Township Together, that only opens to a passworded.
It hasn't been launched yet. So.
Well, it's an official.
Oh, it is?
Website.
Is that what it
but
said?
It only opens to a passworded screen. They have registered the domain.
Oh.
Which means that somebody had put the
It is SalemTownshipTogether.com.
all one word, SalemTownshipTogether.com.
All right. Yes, Bob.
I stayed to the Northville Township meeting and right to the end, and the flare that they were talking about putting in on the south side was, at the last meeting, was supposed to be 40 feet. It's not 40, it's 140 feet. Up straight up, right over by the generator plant. And Mr. Hicks stood up at the very end, and he seemed to alleviate 90% of the people's minds there that they actually needed the flare. And it more than likely will pass with no problems. But there are a lot of negativity in the audience.
Maybe that new development they're putting in? Right there on 6 Mile? I mean, whatever.
No, that's
Right, I mean,
this has something to do with with their expansion of the gas.
Yeah, I had between our last meeting and this meeting about 135 complaints. I mean, you know, I get it. You know, it's like you go by there, you smell it, you see it, and it's
There's a concerted effort to stir the pot, though.
Well, and I know there's that out there too. I mean, I've been there too where somebody, and I know some of the people, I've gone over there and I see they're having meetings and they're doing that. You know, I get it, I see that, but it's still, there's a problem. And when you're over there and you see some of it, and we want to see it corrected. I mean, who would think that we'd still be talking about this? I mean, that thing's been there a long time and we haven't had this much problem in years like we've had since, they started this extra expansion, on the north side of the hill. And, they must have tapped into the old stuff or whatever, and they're not capturing the gas properly. Yeah, that's all I can think of. I mean, I'm no engineer, but they are investing a ton of money into it to figure out how to get this solved. And, but how much longer?
They are going up another 100 feet.
Right.
Well, is that according to our ordinances? I mean, does that follow our height ordinance?
That was approved
That was approved by our planning commission?
by the past township board.
To put a flare, 140 foot?
No, I'm talking about the height of the hill.
Oh, the height of the
It's going up
flare.
another 100 feet.
And the flare's going to be 140 feet too.
I thought he was talking about the flare being.
I don't
Well-
think the flare's going 140 feet.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Is it?
And to just echo Mr. Horton's comment that he heard at that meeting, is that this is all being driven by the compliance directive that the EPA has put on Arbor Hills. And it's really, the public hearing is kind of just a step in the process, because in order to complete the corrective action, the flare needs to be installed. Otherwise, all of the piping and the well installation that's been done over the last several months is really for naught. Unless they have the flare, the system doesn't work properly. And according to the DEQ representatives there today, they're indicating that with the installation of the additional wells, of which there's over 300 now, and as well as this new flare, that they're thinking that this will correct all of the odor issues that are going on there today. And recognize there are odors. There was another citation that was issued in January, and they're forcing Arbor Hills to implement additional good management practices over and above what already is in place to try to address those concerns. So it'll be interesting to hear their summary to us when they come back next month or the month after.
I want to mention as well that I talked with Bob a lot with regards to this, because every time I drive down there and see that flare going, I see money going bye-bye, because that could be in our coffers. I will report out that we have been seeing normally month of January, February, December, we normally see our gas revenues down around less than $90,000 to $100,000 a month. And we've seen consistently between $120,000, $126,000 a month coming in. So they are capturing more, we are getting more. They are putting in a 36-inch main that goes up underneath the railroad tracks, and that's the reason why the temporary flare is down there, because they cannot pull all the gas that's being generated in the landfill. They can't pull that through off underneath the power plant and get it into the power plant and burn it. There may be even necessary to increase another generating unit, because they have 2 generators down there now. They may even go to 3. So that being said, that pipe off underneath the railroad tracks, anytime you deal with the railroad tracks, that's permits and everything else that goes with it. It's very, very difficult to get the railroad to move. And they expect that to be on, hopefully, by midsummer of this year, but that is no guarantee, but that's their plan.
According to them, the only time the flare runs is when the generator is done.
Well, that's the other flare. There's already an existing
Besides that
flare.
one.
Yeah, they have an existing flare that's down by the plant.
2.
We have two flares. One's operational.
Okay, any other comments?
Yeah, just a question, just in terms of the grant money and all that stuff. As Shostag partnered with anybody, or is it Shostak? And if it's just Shostak, have they said they're about ready to have all the financing or anything? Have they given any updates on it?
No, I mean, we're waiting for that.
But is it just Shostak, or is there other people actively involved?
Well, there's other people actively involved in it, and they said they've been in contact. I mean, they've called me, I told them, you got to figure out how to put it together. I mean, we're not, so we're waiting for that, so. Yes?
Has anybody on the board looked into any grants or anything to help with the beautification thing of Salem, of the hamlet? If there's any money out there that they could use? Any grants or anything?
We have some tree mitigation money that, it's not that much. I think, what do we have, 20?
It's about $20,000.
You're gonna need a lot more than that. I mean, see if there's anything out there at all. Has anybody done any investigating on that?
We looked at it a long time ago, the DDA, but that really.
Well, wouldn't that be a smart thing to do?
I know a lot of the foundation, or a lot of the Ann Arbor grants that Sue's committee works with, it's a little bit different than that kind of grant, but maybe Sue can talk about that. I'm not sure if she knows. Do you know?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the question.
Well, I guess there are tons of grants out there that people can apply for. Specifically who they want to give grants to. For anything, anything there is. I mean, there's grants for.
We're talking about trying to get a grant, okay, for the $500,000 for the little project in the hamlet.
Oh, yeah, you have
You know,
to
I
find.
mean, they want to put $500,000. Why not use the government's money if you can get it? You know.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the grant
Yeah.
for that, but you could probably check somebody somewhere at the state level, or maybe even federal grants, I don't know. There are grants out there, though.
Carlisle Wharton would be a good source to begin with.
You can ask the question. Okay, anybody else? Okay, lastly, just, we talked last month about, losing folks. Linda Hamilton had lost her dad here a few days ago, and I just want to let people know that. Mr. Casey's been a Salem resident for years, and his viewing is going to be March, or there's going to be a memorial service at Trinity Church on Govertson and Ann Arbor Road. And we sure pay our respects to that family. It's at 11 o'clock on the 23rd, I believe, of March. And so he's another great, a lot of our residents are getting up there, and we're losing them, and it's hard to see these folks pass on, but they've been real assets to our community, and we hate to see them lost. And it's good to see Arlene here tonight, and we just lost Al here not just a few weeks ago, and it's good to see her out tonight. So, but anyway, we appreciate everyone being here tonight, and we'll see you next month, and we're adjourned. Okay, thank you.